Hey everyone, it's Julian. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make Bicep style music. Going along with this video, you can get the full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, everything from this video is available at the top of the description on my website. Definitely go grab that. It's going to help you make better and more interesting tracks today. I promise this will really help you get to the next level. Thanks for the support, everyone, and let's dive in. Alright, so we're at 130 BPM. First thing we got up here is our bass. So, this is a simple bass, right? And the thing I think you should notice here is, like, it's all about contrast. Like, since we have this lead over here, which is crazy, you know, we have all these drum breaks. There's already so much happening elsewhere that to have the bass be super busy and crazy would really just create more of a mess. So instead we just go for these long held out notes to establish the chords, right? And the chord progression here is essentially we're in E minor. It's root note, 6th, 4th. Right, like a very epic progression. And then over here, it walks up the 9th to the 3rd. It almost sounds like some Batman music or something like that, you know? But that's because they were probably using the same voices. It just creates that big, epic feel, right? So we're just kind of laying down the chord progression with the bass. We're not trying to be too busy or too crazy. Because, again, it's all about understanding how this fits with the other stuff. Now, for the sound here, it's wavetable. We're using the sub oscillator and then 2 saw waves, detune. It's basically just a pretty standard Reese. We got a low pass filter on it, but still letting through a lot of the fat mids without like letting through all the like high end stuff, you know, that would get in the way of all those breakbeats. We've got some chorus, a little bit of saturation, and then a subcut to cut out any of the like super deep frequencies that you don't really hear that will get in the way of your master. We're converting the bass to mono, and then we're side chaining to the kick. Next thing we have here is this FM pad. Now, I call it a pad because it's like, you know, kind of just creating a big wash in the background. But obviously it is pretty crazy. And the other thing with this is the way that it's fitting with that lead. You know, it's like we have the lead here and we have the whole track with that. But now if you add in this pad, you can see they actually work together pretty nicely, even though it's two extremely busy sounds. Now, what we're doing here is it's the same chord progression as the bass line. We're doing root note, 6th, 4th, right? But then what we're doing is it's like basic triads, but normally that would look like this. Right? You'd go root note, 3rd, 5th for every chord. Instead, what we're doing is we're putting the 3rd up an octave, and then the 5th down an octave. So you get the same chord, but it's kind of obscuring it a little bit. Now, for the actual sound, we're using an arpeggiator, obviously, without that. Right? And then with it. So we're doing the converge and then an octave up at 16th notes, so you get that, like, you know, it's kind of walking in a more sophisticated way up the scale. Then we're using operator, which is some sine waves to create this, like, FM tone. They're all at different octaves. It's a bit detune. We got the low pass like that. A bit of spread as well. I've been using that recently a lot more, just to spread it out. Width-wise, we got a bit of chorus, some delay and reverb, sidechain, high pass, and then the bass mono, because this one, in some of those like lower mid-range frequencies, was having a little bit of weird stereo stuff, which was messing up the whole mix. So just clean that up. Then we've got the lead. Now, what we're doing here is it's doing this right? Like every time it's that pattern. So you're going to start with that. Just figure out a rhythm, right? Once you have that, we're basically just plugging in different notes from the scale. So what this is it's going from root note to minor 3rd of this E minor chord, which again, that's the key we're in, E minor. So you see, it's very basic, right? It's just jumping across different octaves. And then that top note stays the same, and then we're just changing the root note. And that's where you get this cool thing, because you have that repetition of the that note, and then you have the root note changing, right? And then the root note is just following the bass line. So it's actually very simple. It might sound complicated, but it's very simple once you figure it out that way. Right? So we got that, and then for the actual sound, it's made with analog. Analog, to me, is really good for just creating these, like, insane patches that are, you know, basic saw waves and square waves, but just taking them into, like, another dimension, right? So what we're doing here is we got 2 square waves. One is an octave down, one's an octave up. They're detuned. We also have a bit of noise. You can see on one of them, we have this pitch envelope. So if I put that back to normal, and then back again, you can hear it really works to have that, just one of them pitching independent of the other one. We got a low pass filter with key tracking and an envelope on it, right? I also set the drive to that, so it's like a bit more punchy. We got the amp envelope also short like that. A bit of vibrato, and then I have the unison on. But what we're doing here is I have an LFO over here on that unison. So if I turn the LFO off, you can hear it's just the same thing over and over. All of a sudden, you start random LFOing the unison. And you can hear it's like it gets a little less detuned, a little more detuned. It becomes this like living, breathing sort of thing. So I really recommend trying this. Just putting like random LFOs on different things that you wouldn't normally put an LFO on. But you can see it really helps to deconstruct the synth and bring it to something new that we've never heard before. We got a bit of delay, eighth notes, some reverb, a bit of sidechain, and then we're just high passing this. And then we have the drums. So, yeah, the drums are pretty busy, but if you listen to it all together, again, I've been saying this a lot recently, but it's like if you have a lot in the synths, like this is a lot happening inside of the synths, these drums need to fit that. You know, if they're too crazy on their own, it's going to get in the way of the synth. So this is like very busy, but still very much fitting together. So the first thing here is this synthesized kick. So yeah, I was going for like a 909 kick. This is made with operator. So what we're doing here is it's actually just one sine wave. There's no FM required. You can see that what I'm doing is I've got the initial up. And what this does is it sets it so the attack basically allows you to create like just kind of a longer held out sort of pitch there rather than like fading into the sound. So we're creating this like shelf over here to create a nice fat punch, and then it quickly dies down. And so if you don't do that, it's a little too short. That's going to give you that like full body to the kick. Then what we're doing is this pitch envelope. And this is the key to a synthesized kick, is you need the 2-tier envelope. So, right, it's like that. And then we add the envelope. So if I turn off the 2-tier envelope, see, it's not nearly as punchy. Because this is essentially how a kick works, is you have that pitch right up at the start, which is going to be a transient, and then you kind of have the body of the sound, which still needs to be pitching down like this. And yeah, there you go. Then we have a high pass filter as well with this soft shaper. So if I turn that off, you can hear it's a nice kick. It's a bit too like, this cuts out some of that sub. And then also just makes it a bit harder with the shaper. And it can be punchier when it doesn't have all those frequencies in it. Then we got the synth hi-hat. So basically trying to recreate the hi-hat I hear in a lot of Bicep tracks. I mean, they've been using this one all the way back to Glue, and even with the modern stuff. So the way you make it is it's a white noise with a short, with no sustain, short decay, and then a little release, because you want it to kind of like you hit a note and it still rings a little. You know, you get that psh, not just like if you turn off the release. See, it's a little too sharp. So we got that. Then we have a bandpass filter on that with like a high resonance, and that's the key too. The resonance is going to give you the sort of like metallic. sort of hi-hat thing, right? And there you go. And then really it's just turning it up, you know, making sure that it's nice and punchy with the kick. You want like this kick and bass and hi-hat. Like those have to really groove on their own like that, right? Then we have some more hi-hats. Right, you can hear. So basically it's just a nice closed one. 808, and then also this thing, which you can hear just adds a little bit more rhythm to it. It's like this is steadily. And then that little shaker, yeah, it really does add a lot of groove to the whole beat. Right? Then we got some breakbeats. And the key here is the breakbeats are layered together. Yeah, we do have two of them at once, but they're doing very different things. Right, so this first one here is just a bit more mid-rangey, so that's just kind of sitting like with the hi-hat and the kick. We're high-passing that, we're converting into mono, and then we're side-chaining it, and then the second one. So what we're doing here is we're actually using corpus. So this break kind of has a bit of like resonance and like this metallic thing happening to it. And yeah, I've heard this in a lot of Biceps tracks, and this is how you do it. It's corpus or any kind of resonator like this. I mean, you could even do this with like a flanger if you wanted to, right? It's basically just that like metallic resonance. We got it on the beam mode. That's the key. And then these settings, like the decay's got to be up a little bit. Turn the material down. Make sure you tune it to the key of your track. Right, because as soon as we put it out of key, yeah, it's kind of a mess, so just keep that. Then we just high passing that, and then we're side chaining it. But yeah, so the corpus on breakbeats, very good way to just sort of bring them into the future and make it something new. Because it's like, even though they were using breakbeats in the 90s already, and that sound has already been done so much, right? It's like, at least with this, we can kind of do something new with it. That's the goal. Then we got the snare. And so, the way I made this is that I chopped it out of a breakbeat. And then we're using this technique where you bring the sustain down and make it kind of like a lot punchier. And then you get a nice, really hard-hitting snare to fit with the breakbeats. And then also it's going to fit with that hi-hat and kick nicely. Then we've got the vocals. So, what we got here, I'll turn off all the effects.
Deeper and deeper, girl.
They're on two different tracks, but I'm just bringing these to the same effect, so it kind of becomes like all one thing, right? It's like you get these soulful vocals that fit really well.
Deeper and deeper, girl.
And then we've got like a bit of filtering to start off with, like we're cutting out all the lows.
Deeper and deeper.
Cutting a little highs, and again, that same trick with the resonance.
Deeper and deeper.
We're side chaining it.
Deeper and deeper.
Excuse me, compressing it a little bit. Echo, reverb.
Deeper and deeper.
Another high pass.
Deeper.
And then side chaining that at the end of the chain. And there it is. You can see, you just want to get these vocals. It's really more about really good vocals and getting them in the right key so that they really hit against the rest of the track. And yeah, so that's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, the entire templates available at the top of the description on my website. Definitely go grab that. It really helps support me, and it's going to support you making the best track of your life today. Thank you so much for the support, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.